My man threw 25 passes.
Hey. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.
Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports Assorted Sounds, brought to you by Mr. Logical and 2-5. Tonight, you know, we got NFL picks, we got college football picks because it's Friday night, but we're going to start us off with a little association, you know, but do me a favor out there, like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things. Do all the good things, liquid death in hand. Make sure you watching these conference championship games. But I guess before we get into this NBA thing, we'll continue our conversation here, Mr. Logical. So, so as I was saying, you know, so Duke right now is the monkey wrench. You know, if they beat Virginia tomorrow, things just go nuts, you know, because you got these conference championship games going on tonight, 4 of them. And if Duke wins, you know, we were looking at this from the standpoint of, well, hey, James Madison wins and them and the American champion gets in. But what we never explored was, what if JMU loses? Because it's still top 5 conference champions.
I saw a video today. I think I shared it with you and Chris. And it goes to the, like, you know, the sentiment that I've been saying for years, at least the entirety we had this podcast, even before. The college football, Division I, high level, FBS, CFP, blah, 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 championship run. It is not a tournament to determine the best team in America. It is a tournament to sell people for entertainment from December to just after New Year's or January. Because no slight to JMU, no slight to North Texas, no slight to whoever the MAC champion may be or the Mountain West champion. They don't have the same level players as the SEC schools. Or even the top ACC schools, or even Miami, who might not get a shot at all unless the committee does some kind of dance, wiggle, Harlem shake to get them in there, because it's going to be complicated because of the precedent they set by not making it a tournament of the best teams. I think being inclusive is fine, but it has to be, the verbiage should have been done differently, because now they're going to be faced with potentially San Diego State or something.
Right now, you know, we got the Mountain West. We have Boise at 8-4 against 10-2 UNLV.
Okay, you can get UNLV potentially versus Ole Miss in the first round.
Right, and then
are you selling that to ESPN? Are you selling that to CBS? Are you selling that to whatever network is signing up to buy these games?
Well, the good news is, if you're a nerd like me, you know, UNLV's head coach was the former coach at Mississippi State, Dan Mullen, in Florida, so he has SEC ties. So maybe you could do a storyline.
Yeah, but no one's tuning in to see him.
Yeah, nobody's tuning in to see him. But then
he's not running slants or blitzing off the edge.
In Conference USA, you have 8-4 Jacksonville State against 9-3 Kennesaw State. So count both of those out just off of affiliation.
Yeah.
You know, then woo. And then in the MAC, You got 8-4 Western Michigan against 7-5 Miami of Ohio. So like neither one of them are probably getting in. So could it be a conversation of UNLV or Boise versus Duke? Because even if Boise is 8-4, their name is Boise. They made the playoff last year. They're the Cinderella, so maybe you could sell Boise.
But we don't like Cinderellas in college football. You talk about that quite often. And that's literally the same thing that this guy said in the video I sent. So I'm always like, people definitely are watching our podcast and taking up these little tidbits because we've talked about that before. We like Cinderellas in the first round so we can have the bracket buster in the March Madness. Maybe the second round, give me, a Fresno State to beat UConn. If that lines up that way, you give me that. All right, cool. But other than that, I want my traditional teams that I recognize, that I know their players who went on to be NBA players, who were my favorite players growing up. Just the proverbial me, not me personally, but like.
Right. Yeah, I think you could get away with the Sweet 16, but once we get to the regional final and the Final Four, people want to see Kansas. They want to see Duke, Carolina.
So give me Boise State versus Oklahoma week 1. And if Boise State pulls it out, kudos to them. We'll let the season play out, but that's their Super Bowl. That's your highlight of the year. You went down to Norman, and you got to win off Oklahoma. They don't want you to make that same attempt in January because they feel like, or December, because that doesn't sell. To me, football is football. But there is a disadvantage to some of these smaller schools. Just literally, like I said, we talk about the skill players, the quarterbacks, you get them from anywhere. Your trench players, the players who control the line of scrimmage, and certain regions of college football are just bigger, stronger, faster. And it probably won't be that exciting of a game if we get JMU versus Ole Miss. And I know we got the App State Michigan back in the day, but that was literally 18 years ago.
And by the way, Boise just took a 14-0 lead on UNLV. So there you go. But let's get right to it, Mr. Logical. There is trouble in Cream City. Apparently, before the season started, the Greek Freak said, I want to be a Knick. Now what?
I'm a big fan of history. I grew up. That's probably one of my favorite subjects next to business. I think history is probably number one. And I remember a player from the Midwest back in the day that said, I want to go to New York. And it handcuffed each organization to the point where Denver came out on top when they took like 4 players and some draft picks from the Knicks to send Carmelo there when he could have just waited to the offseason and signed there, so forth and so on. And it didn't work. We've seen teams like Brooklyn trade all their capital to get these stars and try to, use trade leverage to create a big three or trade leverage to microwave a potential championship contender. And it doesn't work because you lose your depth. We've seen KD get traded multiple times between, going from Brooklyn to Phoenix and then Phoenix now to Houston. It hasn't worked outside of a real free agent. Even the Luka to LA trade probably won't pan out because you don't have the depth you need to make a long run. OKC is 21-1 right now because they have probably 9 or 10 guys that they can trust to go on the floor and execute at a high level, whatever their job is. And the chemistry works out that way. Giannis to New York, if I'm Milwaukee, I'm not leaving that deal without Cat, Josh Hart, OG, and Mikal Bridges, and at least 1 or 2 draft picks. At least
all
one.
4 of them.
I'll give you 3, but Cat's in that. I'm not going to trade you in the same conference and make you a juggernaut with Cat, Jalen Brunson, and Giannis on one team. Like, why would I help New York Like, what does Milwaukee have to gain by helping them keep? Like, no, even if Cat doesn't work with Miles Turner, I don't care.
Well, see,
I'm not
like, and that's the
trading you a
thing, right?
championship.
But that's the thing. This is that Dame situation all over again, right? This is that Bradley Beal situation all over again, right? Where the team doesn't have any leverage to command that. You know what I mean? Because now it's a distressed asset. And now we know that not that you have to get rid of him, but if you end up trading him, it's not because you just want to make a deal. It's because he is asking out. So I'm not going to give you everything. So the team that I had in mind, though, Mr. Logical, I was thinking Atlanta.
You know, my AI said the same thing.
Yeah, I was thinking Atlanta from the standpoint of, you get a Trae Young. You know what I mean? Atlanta has your picks. Remember, we talked about the New Orleans Derek Queen to Atlanta trade. You get your picks back.
The Indian giver trade, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But yeah, you could get that back. And Atlanta suddenly maybe becomes the favorite in the East. You know what I mean? Or like I hear people say OKC. I don't see why OKC does that deal because OKC could potentially get a top 5 pick this next season and get a Cameron Boozer or a Darren Peterson or a Devonta or whoever. So I don't see OKC wanting to do that move. I've heard Golden State. Could you get a third team involved? Move Jimmy Butler. He's been complaining lately, talking about the team's effort, so on and so forth.
But the thing about that, you need Jimmy Butler for the Giannis. Like that's the problem. The art of like a good business deal, each party has to lose out on something they really want. And Milwaukee doesn't have to get rid of Giannis because he's gonna keep playing. And even if he doesn't, then he has to violate his contract to stop playing. He can say he's hurt, whatever the case. So he has to. You have to hold their feet to the fire. The same way I think someone did it last year, and you were like, "I'm glad they did it. They didn't just cave." Like when Dame wanted to go to Miami, it just handicaps all parties involved, even you as the player. It doesn't make your situation better when you go to the other team because if I'm Milwaukee, I know Giannis wants to go to the Knicks and only the Knicks, and the Knicks are going to want a player like that. I'm going to gut you for as much as I can. I'm going to fleece you for as much as I can. I'm not going to make this easy. I'm not going to give you the Luka AD trade. That was the biggest anomaly, and that hasn't worked.
So normally you see this when the player is closer to the end of their contract, and then the other team gets suckered into paying them, and then they move on. But Giannis has a player option in 27, 28. So that's a couple of years away that if you don't trade him, this is still going to be hanging over you. He's not an actual free agent until 28, 29. So this could go on for a while, but this is my overall problem. Saying Giannis, I don't want to do the thing, so forgive me. Saying Giannis was presenting himself as the anti-LeBron. Like, I don't team up with these guys. I don't hang with these guys. I'm the gladiator, like I'm going to win titles. And he did bring a title to Milwaukee. You know what I mean? So congratulations. I mean, we got our opinions about it, but he got a title. You know what I mean? And now, you're this best player in the league or, at least a top 3, top 4 player in the league.
Yeah.
Still an MVP candidate every year. And so the way that I look at this, what pisses me off is that you're like, send me to the Knicks. And, and I can understand why a dude would want to go to the Knicks, touchdown Tulane. But at the same time, it's one of those things where if you're the best, why you got to go there? You know what I'm saying? You don't need to be a Knick. I could send you to Toronto and you could go team with Brandon Ingram, Emmanuel Quickly, and some other dudes. And Milwaukee.
I'm pretty sure Kawhi didn't want to go to Toronto. And San Antonio was like, yeah, we're going to make the best deal. And he ended up winning a championship because it was like, all right, I got a deal. We got a good deal done. There's some young talent here. There's some rising talent here. And I can come in. I think he played his normal amount of games. He was healthy for a whole year. and then the injury bug bit a couple of other teams in the playoffs, and he got away with a travel against Philly. But eventually, he won a championship. But it's no small thing to scoff at. And I think that's one of my biggest issues is like, you don't need to chase a championship. You just need to be prepared to win one. You already won one. Not that many people have more won than that. Like, some guys don't have any. Like, there's an anomalies. Kobe, Tim Duncan, LeBron, Shaq, Jordan, obviously, Magic. Those guys have 3, 4, 5 championships. It's not that common for a superstar to go out with just one. I think Dr. J has one. Am I correct? One NBA title.
I want to say he has 2, but go ahead.
He might have an ABA one, but I believe he has at least the one NBA.
Well, I know he's got ABA ones. He definitely has ABA ones. He has one NBA title, 2 ABAs.
Yeah, so it's like you stayed in Milwaukee, you signed this gigantic contract because you want to stay in Milwaukee. You mentioned staying in Milwaukee and winning there before you won. Now, if the organization has problems, I would rather move the people who wear suits and get them out of the way and get people who understand basketball operations better and stay out of that. But like, listen, this isn't working. You get more people in here.
But that's kind of the problem, though. But that's kind of the problem. It's not like the Bucks haven't tried to make moves. You know what I mean? Like, so like, we always talked about they held on to Chris Middleton a little bit too long,
Correct.
but that's okay to some degree because that's who got you to the dance. That was Giannis's partner. He was the guy that was closing the games. So like, it's okay, but they went out and got Dame. Now we could argue about whether Dame fit or not, but not many teams are just going out here and grabbing Dame Lillards to pair with or that level of player to pair with their superstar. You know what I mean? They went out and got Kyle Kuzma, who's not anything to write home about, but he's a former champion, that theoretically could have helped Giannis. It just didn't work.
Neither one of those guys play defense. Neither one of those guys bring a real element to the game that Giannis didn't already give you.
Correct. But they got rid of Brook Lopez and brought in Miles Turner.
OKC has Shea. They don't need another guy that can give you a little bit of what Shea gives you. They need a guy that can give you everything that Hartenstein gives you, and he can come off the bench behind Hartenstein.
Holmgren. Yeah,
and I think that's the problem. Is like they try to keep these guys around.
But Dame brought the shooting. Dame brought the shooting that Milwaukee didn't have.
But he made a defensive hole. Like I think
he did.
The 6 foot tall, 6'1" point guard.
He did, but the point that I'm trying to make, why I brought up LeBron, right? Yeah. Why I brought up LeBron was this wasn't LeBron in Cleveland. You know what I mean? Where you went out and got J.J. Hickson, or you went out and got Antoine Jameson instead of Amari Stoudemire or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Milwaukee made moves. It just didn't work. And this year they brought in Miles Turner, who brings in some of that defense that you're talking about. And it gets rid of Brook Lopez, who's 36 or 37 now. You get younger in the front court. So theoretically, Miles Turner and Giannis together defensively, when our powers combine, I am Captain Planet. You know what I'm saying? So from that standpoint, so that's what I mean. Like Milwaukee made moves. It just didn't work. So don't act as though Milwaukee just has you hostage.
Yeah, and I don't know. I understand that championships are the ultimate goal. And Giannis said it himself at the press conference a couple years ago when they got bounced out of the playoffs. He's like, is your year a failure if you don't like talking to the reporter? Like if you don't publish a book at the end of the year? Did you work all year? And it's like, you just play. And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with just playing out your career and being a top tier player, 1, 2, or 3, arguably every single year. The top 3 players don't win chips every year. Jokic is probably that guy. He won't sniff the Western Conference Finals this year.
And Luka,
because there's another team that's younger and they have a superstar, and that team is better. It is not an indictment on Jokic that he has one chip.
But even if you like, Milwaukee's problem is probably not necessary. Like, I don't think they have a good team, but they also don't have in my opinion, a good head coach. So that's problem number one. You know what I mean? But when you look at the East, when you just look at the landscape of the East, I'm higher on Orlando than you are. But if you're Milwaukee, you don't look at Orlando as this is an obstacle in our way, or, Philly's trying to get it together. How long can Embiid stay? All that stuff, Paul George. Then you got Atlanta, who Trae Young's out right now. So their defense looks a lot better. But when he comes back, that's going to hamper them because their defense is going to fall back off. Boston doesn't have Jason Tatum.
No way of competing. You have 5 teams that are literally not going to bother you at all. So even in the 10th spot, you're in the play-in. The Bulls aren't going to do that much better. The Hornets, Nets, Pacers, Wizards are all going to be behind you.
The Pacers who knocked you out the last 2 years ain't going to be there. You know what I mean? So if you're Giannis, if you're that dude, just simply be that dude. But on the other hand, Mr. Logical, I know you brought up old people and all that kind of stuff like that.
True indeed.
Could Milwaukee bring in Chris Paul?
I've been looking at a few pieces and I watched another thing and I read something else about it. It's strange that the way these things are being handled out of that organization. It's odd. It's odd the way they're operating, considering that they're trying to get out of the Lakers' shadow. And they're just it seems like they're doing all the wrong things. The stadium, TikToker did a tour and said how amazing it was and how there was a basketball court outside. And people were still playing basketball outside after the game ended. It's like a whole vibe and everything's touch screen this and wireless that. And it's a great experience. But they didn't make the team any better. The team's old. The coaching high, just everything about the structure and operation of the team is poor. And this is another side of that. I know Chris Paul probably around the league, Pat Bev is probably one source who feels like Chris Paul is probably one of the dirtiest players in the league. And I think that's been a moniker that's followed him for a while. And maybe it gets to the point where it's talent versus tolerance. You don't have the talent for us to deal with your shit. It's unfortunate, but at some point, everybody's value to another person diminishes. That's why you got to have value in yourself and you got to move on. But at certain points, it's you know what? We don't need you. Bounce. It's unfair, but fairness isn't fairness is not a expectation. It's a hope.
Well, when I look at this situation, you wonder why Chris Paul was brought there to begin with, besides the fact that he's a Clipper legend. He may be the best player that ever suited up for the Clippers, realistically speaking. So for one, I don't like treating him this way.
Dominique Wilkins.
Saying, yeah, okay. But the problem is that this is what happens when you don't nip stuff in the bud when you have the opportunity to. Chris Paul has been a dick for year after year after year after year, but since he was the point guard, saying nobody ever called him out or, talked to him in that way. Now that he's old and on his way out of the league, now everybody's got big balls and I'm not dealing with this anymore. You know what I mean? But my first question is, did James Harden even want Chris Paul there to begin with? We know how it ended in Houston. We know that they didn't get along. You know what I mean? Then you got a Kawhi who is often injured. He missed games this year already. You know what I mean? Chris Paul ain't putting up with that. Chris Paul has been to the NBA Finals. Chris Paul is about to retire. Chris Paul has had expectations and gets unfairly, in my opinion, blamed a lot of times for his team losing in the playoffs. So Chris Paul is not here for excuses, for BS. It's all about accountability with a guy like him. And I like that. Now you went and got Brook Lopez, who I just mentioned from Milwaukee. And guess what? He's not even in the rotation right now because he's so bad. They're 6-16 coming into tonight. You can't expect a guy like Chris Paul to be in a situation like that and bite his tongue. Now, with that being said, there's a way that you go about things. You're the new guy to the team. You were a Clipper many moons ago, but you're new to this iteration of the Clippers. You know what I'm saying? You need to not necessarily play your position, but know when and how and who to talk to this way and or about whatever. Because allegedly him and Tyronn Lue were really good friends, but now the reports are like they weren't even on speaking terms. So when they came back from Atlanta, Chris Paul and Lawrence Frank had a 3-hour conversation that led to 3 o'clock in the morning, 2:40 in the morning. Hey, you got to go, man.
You can wear thin on people. I personally know that although I believe I have a likable personality, I have rubbed people the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta recognize that. I can't be mad at people. I'm like, listen, you don't rock with me, I don't rock with you. That's fine. But I think sometimes that talent and that ego and that confidence and the swagger and just all the accomplishments to get to beat the odds over and over and over and over again to get to a point where you're playing a 20-year NBA career after a great career at Wake Forest. So it's like you've done so much that you might not understand. Like, all right, the credits for your movie are rolling. And you think you're still the star. It's like, no, there's a new star here. You're not it. You need to understand your position. And maybe he didn't, or maybe he felt like, you know what? I don't care what you believe my position is. You need to hear this information from me. But in the same sense, it's like, well, you're not going to provide us the winning formula or the winning energy we need. You're just giving us fucking shit. Excuse my language. You're just giving us words and just acknowledging the problems we have, but you're not you can't help the solution. You can't help speed up the offense. You can't help shoot more threes more efficiently. It's not what you do. You can't help defensively because there's only so much energy you have in that body, so many games you can play. So it's like all the stuff you complain about, you can't help us with, and we're sick of hearing you complaining about it. So just go.
And it's an awful year already. You had the whole, I guess, whatever investigation is going on into Ballmer and Kawhi. Bradley Beal's already out for the year. I mentioned, Kawhi's already missed games. I had to cut him off my fantasy basketball team. But, like, all this stuff.
There. That's
well, it was, I didn't draft him. I forgot about the draft. But,
okay.
But it was just one of those things where, like, a guy like Chris Paul at this stage in his career, he does offer value to your team, I believe, off the court. So is there any teams that you think, besides the Lakers, because I know everybody's going to raise their hand and say the Lakers.
I don't know. Like that does having chemistry matters. When something doesn't work out somewhere else and you're bringing in that, like some of that stuff was on them too. No matter how your last breakup went, when you start your new relationship, some of this shit in your last relationship was your fault too. So it's like you're still bringing that, or you're still bringing maybe some of that shit was your fault. You're not acknowledging it, and now you're bringing that same apathy into your attitude here. We don't know, so why even introduce it? I think maybe the expectation was he took on more of like Udonis Haslam type role, because Udonis was on that team for 4 seasons, just not suiting up. Just long sleeve Miami Heat t-shirt on the sideline, getting guys ready. Maybe they thought
ready to fight.
I'm coming off the bench. I got 6 fouls, or I could take this tech, or I could take this ejection. It is what it is. I don't think there's a spot for him. And realistically, there probably isn't a lot of spots in professional sports for aging athletes over the age of 37 to 38 in any sport.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe DH in baseball 15 years ago. But realistically, it's like the time does come. Father Time is undefeated. No matter how many hyperbolic chambers you sleep in, how many massages you get, how often you get stretched, how much money you spend on your body every year, whatever it is that you do, time waits for no man. And
So
it might just be time. It's
I got 3
unfortunate it's
teams.
unceremonious like this, but I can't imagine anybody signing up.
I got 3 teams, like maybe a reunion with Phoenix. Because, like I said, you're not asking him to come in and, give you 30 minutes a night or anything and, average 17 points.
But what if he wants 30 minutes and he wants to average 17?
Well, he can get it right now because Jalen Green is out. So maybe there is a little room right now until Jalen Green comes back. But then I was thinking about Orlando needing that veteran leadership, and then maybe, and this one is a long stretch for real, but because I don't know how him and Ime would work together, but maybe because Fred VanVleet is out for the year. So just from that mentor standpoint, I'm thinking of not necessarily the on the court stuff. And you know what I mean? But I don't know if you need him and Ime, because I imagine Ime is the coach version of Chris Paul.
The OKC Thunder. Who's the veteran leader there?
I would think it's Caruso.
Okay. So you don't bring in a guy to your team to be your veteran leader. Your leader is there in the beginning. It's not like these guys are running around aimlessly since training camp and now 20 plus games into the season. And then you had a guy who was supposed to be the leader of the other team because he signed a deal with them over the summer, get just basically kicked off the team. What am I supposed to expect from him bringing him in? If he wants to go work in NBA PA, I know at one point he was a president of NBA PA, it just might be time to transition.
Maybe he wants to coach. I don't know.
Yeah, if you want to coach, that's perfect. But that's the yellow brick road of NBA players. You've made it the odds, homie. The curtain's open. It's showing you that that's it. It's time to wrap it up. Like, look at Dirk. Look at Dirk walking around on the knees because he played all those extra years. But you look at Udonis Haslem. They host the same NBA Prime TV show. Sat on the bench, like, listen, I'm done.
Yeah.
But these other guys kept playing. Now they can't walk straight. Knees off, fingers all this way, and everything else. It's like, it's time, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I knew at the latter part of my career when I didn't give a damn about the certain shit I used to care about a lot. When I was like, all right, I'm done yelling about hands and pockets. I'm done yelling about haircuts.
I don't care what color your hair is.
I'm done. I'm just done with that part of it. It's like that was like my driving force was that being able. I was done deploying. I was like, okay. It was like, you know what? This is coming to an end. It didn't end the way I wanted to, but like it ended. You start something new.
Right.
We started this podcast post-retirement.
Right.
I got all the certificates. I'm like, but it's okay to do the next thing because it can be equally as impressive if you're an impressive person like Chris Paul is. You're just not on anyone's basketball team anymore.
And we got 21-0 Boise, 17-7 Tulane, 10-0 Kennesaw State over Jacksonville State, but they're in the red zone. And then
looking for the JMU update here in a second.
Yeah, so 17-14 JMU,
11 minutes in the third.
Yeah. So then as we transition, because of course it's Friday night, so picks and more picks. And I know, Mr. Logical, I know I've been sounding like a broken record. But the Kansas City Chiefs got a must win this weekend. You know, they got the Texans coming in 4-game winning streak. This is a playoff elimination game, in my opinion. You know, it's at Arrowhead. This reminds me, Mr. Logical, of last year, because remember last year, one of my bold predictions coming into the season was the Texans are going to go into Arrowhead and beat Kansas City during the playoffs. They didn't get the opportunity, but they played them around this time last season in Arrowhead. It was a little cold, 27-19. Stroud threw 2 picks. It's going to be cold again. Can Kansas City hold off the Texans one more time?
I'm going to say yes. I think it's going to be a lot like the Colts game. I think Dallas was clicking offensively against the Chiefs to where CeeDee Lamb wasn't dropping passes and they couldn't guard Pickens, and even the tight ends were just wide open underneath. They converted a lot of third and longs, and that could take the wind out of your sails. I don't think that Houston has the offensive firepower to just stamp them 24 points. Like, it's a race to 27 at that point. I don't think Houston has that kind of offense. So I believe 23-20, 24-20, somewhere in that space for Kansas City. I think they win it that way because I think Kansas City's like, listen, if we can get a couple of good drives per half that result in points, we can get to if we can get to 24 points, we probably can beat this team. So if you come out, you scripted 15 plays, if that drive works and you get 7 points out of it, maybe the defense they haven't got a lot of turnovers. Maybe you force a punt because like Houston's offense kind of gets revved up based off what the defense does. Maybe you can steal a 10-0 lead, turn them into a passing attack, but that's the only way. Like it won't be a game where they're just moving up and down the field. It's like we're going to have timely drives. You're going to need a little bit of luck, but 24-20, 23-20, something along those lines, like a lot like the Colts game. Colts have a good run game, so does Texans. The wide receiver core is about even.
So if I was the Chiefs fans, I'd be a little nervous this weekend. The offensive line injuries are piling up. Wanye and those guys are beat up. Kansas City is 5-1 at Arrowhead this year. Houston's coming in on this winning streak, but like I said last week, that was Davis Mills doing a lot of that work. So when CJ Stroud came back last year, the offense wasn't necessarily in that rhythm. So maybe they're still working because before he got hurt, they obviously didn't have any rhythm because, we were looking at them like, are they going to be picking in the top 10 of the draft? The funny part, though, as a side note, Mr. Logical, like when I was looking at this, I was like, damn, we've been talking all this stuff all season, and the Dolphins are literally only a game behind the Chiefs right now. That was just hilarious when I saw that.
Yeah.
But as I look at this, if I remember correctly, Josh Simmons is out for the year. Houston, Jaden Higgins.
Taylor's out.
Yeah.
I think they're replacing both tackles.
Yep. Jaden Higgins has come on lately. The rookie has come on lately. He looks like he's going to be that complement to Nico Collins. And Kansas City can match up in the secondary, I believe. It's going to come down to, can anyone outside of Chris Jones put pressure on CJ Stroud? Now, on the other side, we're talking about these offensive linemen. You got Will Anderson in the game coming through. Number one defense in the league, and they're going to get up in Mahomes' face. So we're going to have to see some screens. We're going to have to see some bubbles.
The same thing. I was like, I'm betting if you're going to put a parlay for receptions for Kareem Hunt, Pacheco, I'd put it at 4 each because they're going to they're getting screens and check downs all day because Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter. Danielle Hunter still looks like a creative player.
Right.
Like, he doesn't look like a real human. Him and Myles Garrett are like they came out on some shit or something.
And you're still going to have Rashee Rice, lining up in the backfield from time to time as well. So I think 23-20 is a little lofty because I think Kansas City is going to have to get in the weeds and the mud to pull this game out. I think they will pull the game out. But I'm looking along the lines of like 19-16 or something like that. I think Houston is just going to force pressure. And
23 is going to be hard fought. It's going to be like, hey, we got a touchdown in the first quarter. We got a couple of field goals late in the first, maybe in the second. Maybe they get that 2-minute drive at halftime. You know, like where like anything can kind of happen. Where it's like you kind of throw out the script and you go with the feel. You
Right.
get in position. You know, like you get a 55-yarder from bunker. Yeah. So something like that. It won't be a pretty 23. It won't be like, oh, this 11-play drive, no penalties. They just converted 2 out of 2 third downs. Nah, it's gonna be like, all right, frantic after the
Yeah, I
script.
think
There's gonna be some frantic moves, maybe a punt return. It's gonna be hard fought points, and I think that 23 happens late in the game to like put them ahead.
Yeah, I think as long as Kansas City controls the ball, like as far as not turning it over, I think they could bleed the Texans out. You know what I mean? Because they say defense wins championships, but this here is the regular season.
Yeah.
Then we go to Lambeau Field. You got the Chicago Bears, number 1 seed in the NFC, the big
Crazy
rivalry game. The Green Bay has won 11 out of 12 against Chicago. Ben Johnson, remember when he first took over the job, he was at the press conference and he said, I love coaching against Matt LaFleur twice a year. Well, we're about to find out how true that is, Mr. Logical.
Do you love it? Do you love it or you just love the podium? Do you love the sound bites?
Yeah, so what you got happening in Lambeau?
I think the Bears. It's a weird. I want to look up this exact percentage too because I was thinking about it. I think the Bears are going to hit the big plays. I think they're going to pull out the trick plays. I think the direct snaps to Swift or the reverses to Doomsday, the flea flicker.
Doomsday's out.
So Burden, so like I think those kind of plays are the plays that Chicago's going to call. I think they're probably flying high pretty off the confidence of running the ball effectively against Philly. So I think they come out with that 2-headed monster again. But like I said, I'm not sure what I get from Green Bay week to week. I still don't. So like I said, I normally give the benefit of the doubt to the home team, but I'm gonna give the benefit of the doubt to the team that seems to be a little bit more locked in the moment and like understanding like we are really on something out here. Like we're really making moves. The city of Chicago's ramped up. They haven't been, amped up for football for a long time. I mean, they're dedicated fans, but I think the belief, I think being the number 1 seed, I think being the lead in their division, I think all of that adds to their. I don't think it takes away from their momentum. And I think, like I said, putting the beat down on Philly in Philly. And then going to Green Bay, it's like, listen, we went to Philly, probably one of the most hostile places to play against one of the most.
Scared of you.
We not worried about y'all either. So yeah, Micah Parsons, go and rush up the field while we throw this draw play right in the gap you just vacated.
So I think that this is a tough game to pick because I still don't necessarily know what Chicago is from the standpoint of, and I'm about to sound like a college football fan right now, like when, you look at a school like Vanderbilt doing what they've been doing this year and you're kind of waiting for that shoe to fall off. Like you're still Vanderbilt. Like you're not going to beat Bama, again or whatever, So when I look at the Bears and outside of the Philly game last week, I'm looking back at their schedule and I'm like, who have y'all beat that has this top-notch defense? Or when did you have to, just use that run game to get the tough yards to put a game away? And I don't see it. You know what I mean? But Green Bay only has 7 turnovers this season, but the Bears are number 1 in takeaways. So this is one of those rubber meets the road matchups. There is a possibility Jaden Reed could be back this weekend. Matthew Golden could be back this weekend. The key for Chicago is that run game that you're talking about, but I think it's more like play keep away. You know what I'm saying? Because they're 4th in total possession right now, and we don't know what we're going to get from the Packers. You're right about that, but we know that Jordan Love is capable of a big play or two. So what I would like to see, now I'm going to go back to the Vanderbilt analogy. Last year when they played Alabama, they held the ball for 42 minutes. Bama was able to score when they got the ball back and keep it a close game. But
they didn't
now,
have enough time.
right, but this is the NFL now. So I'm going to hold on to this ball. And when you get it back, you're going to have to press because there's only 3 minutes left in the quarter. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to have to run the 2-minute drill because I just had the ball for 8 minutes. So now I'm going to bait you into mistakes because you have to move. I think that's the game plan for Chicago. But I'm going with the Packers.
Yeah,
I'm going with the Packers.
Yeah.
All right. So, Mr. Logical, one of the ugliest but best games that we'll ever see. Fire Mike Tomlin is what these people said last week. And now he's going into Baltimore, and people like Mr. Logical are like, how can they say fire Mike Tomlin if they're not saying fire Harbaugh?
I talked about it last week. If you're an NFL team and you're looking to move off your coach, like if you're a team like, let's say, Atlanta, maybe Miami's a little bit sick of Mike McDaniel, maybe the Bengals are like, hey, we get it. We have a great offense, but, man, we seem a little bit ill-prepared. It's going to be some teams, I think, that might surprise you when their coach and the team mutually part ways. I think both of these teams could be that headline at the end of the season. Week 18 is over, and we're going to get the reports. What is it called? Black Monday or Bloody Monday?
Yeah, Black Monday, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's going to be the Ravens and John Harbaugh mutually agree to part ways. The Steelers and Mike Tomlin mutually agree to part ways. Mainly because the seasons don't match their current position that they're in. Because, like, they're all basically tied. Like, they're tied for the division lead.
Mm-hmm.
So you're leading the division, which gives you a home playoff game. So that's an additional home game for the fans. You're in contention. The AFC, no one's really separated themselves. Denver and New England have great records, but they have courtesy of playing, more of a bottom tier kind of schedule. It's like no one's running away with it. So you have, like in poker, to say you got a chip in the chair, you got a chance. But neither one of these teams, I think the fan bases don't feel that way. I think the fan base is like, we're 6-6 because we're barely winning. And then when it's time to really compete, we're getting our asses kicked. And that's a very different thing. It's like you're standing up in a fight and you're battling it out and you're 6-6. We got it. Like Miami. Miami's just clawing their way back, But these guys are just getting knocked out every other fight.
Yeah.
You beat a tomato can, as Chris Broussard says, and then you get knocked out your next fight. So it's just, yeah. I don't know who's going to get fired, but I like I said, mutually parting ways is a high probability.
I did not have Mr. Logical taking shots at Earl Spence on my bingo card. Just didn't have it. So Steelers won 8 of 11 against the Ravens recently. Darius Slay gone. Asante Samuel Jr. in. As I look at Baltimore.
That's one hell of an upgrade.
It is. As I look at Baltimore, we talked about this. I made my dad joke about the Ravens offense not being in sync. It doesn't look any better since I made that comment. Lamar isn't scrambling at all, unless it's absolutely necessary. So, like, the threat isn't even there. That offensive line. That offensive line is terrible, in Baltimore. So,
that's because they're, like I said before, their play calling is predictable. Just they should literally go in the game. And, I talk about the first 15 scripted plays. The first 5 plays need to be Derrick Henry right, Derrick Henry left, Derrick Henry up the middle, Derrick Henry right.
And we talk about Monken's brother being the coach at Army a lot. You know what I mean? And, but I think this game, I'm going to put Derrick Henry over to the side. I think this needs to be a Keaton Mitchell game. I think they need to get him out in space because Pittsburgh can be had on the edges. Derek Harmon's out again. So, that's going to be a big deal. Duggar is out still. So, like, when I look at this game, everything goes point, Ravens. this is exactly the kind of game that the Steelers and Mike Tomlin win. So I'm taking the Steelers to pull the upset. I don't like the 5.5 point spread. I think Pittsburgh guts this one out. I think it looks very similar to that 18-16 game from last year. I think it looks real similar to that, and I'm going with the Steelers to pull the upset.
I'm taking the Steelers as well, just because I've heard a couple of pundits say this week that, how difficult is it to get the ball to Derrick Henry? Like, how is that not part of that? How is that not your immediate game plan? And then secondary to that, why is Lamar just always standing in the pocket?
And don't think that.
We got action.
All right, what we got?
We got tip pass, interception. Troy returned it inside the 30-yard line.
All right.
17-14 still. Lamar has probably one of the most elusive quarterbacks in the game, and he scares you on the edge. Why aren't you? And then Derrick Henry getting the ball running downhill scares you. How hard is it to just have a stretch play action play where Lamar fakes it to Derrick Henry, makes the linebacker have to respect that, and then he just rolls out, and now the defense has to readjust and figure out, how do we get to Lamar? Create a little chaos, and then you just bring Mark Andrews over a little crossing route.
And he just got his contract extension, and
it's literally, you could probably run that play 11 times in a row, and variation of, you can give it to Derek, you can bootleg it and throw it to Mark Andrews, or you could bootleg it like Madden and just have Lamar keep it. You can literally just run the same play. The defense can't adjust all three things at once. It can't stop all three.
Right. And don't think that Mike Tomlin hasn't been letting them know over and over that they gave up 240 rushing yards last week either. You know what I mean? So I expect inspired effort. UNLV is finally on the board, 21 or actually Boise just scored. So make that 28-7 with a minute 50 left in the second quarter. Jacksonville State is in the end zone. So we got Kennesaw State 12-7 with 10:20 left in the game. Tulane is in the red zone with a 17-7 lead. All right. So Mr. Logical, 2 years ago, I think it was, maybe 3 years ago, my math might be a little fuzzy. It was snowing. We had lake effect going on up in Orchard Park. And everybody came in and said, the Bengals can't run the ball. This is Buffalo all day. Like Buffalo, and Joe Burrow came in there and outplayed Josh Allen. Can he do it again?
Nah. Nah. Let's see. 1 o'clock start time.
Gonna be cold. I don't know if we get snow, but it's gonna be cold.
Buffalo does get a little stagnant in this play calling. It's just that I can't trust the Bengals defense off of the Baltimore performance, just because Baltimore has had like three kind of just poor offensive performances in a row. So it could just be part of like injuries or just bad flow or just bad play calling. I don't think it's as much as like Cincinnati got them out of their game plan, as it just Baltimore is just literally not operating effectively offensively against any team.
Okay.
So I like Buffalo. I like them at home. I like them because I think they literally have more. I say more to gain from a victory, because they're in the wild card. New England seems to be on this historic run, and they can't afford to even put themselves in a position to where the Kansas City Chiefs think they have life to catch them.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to win their game, get the 9-4. That way, when Kansas City plays their game Sunday night, they don't get that extra bump. Like, yo, we got a team. They have us in the tiebreaker, but they just lost a bad game earlier to a team that's 4 games under 500.
Right.
You don't want to give Houston that, because Houston needs it as well, because Houston's they're in the hunt for the wild card. So I think you need to win this game to just kind of put distance between you and these other wild card teams. I think they're probably the best of the wild card teams. I think the other teams in the wild card are there because they're kind of underperforming.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Buffalo is just in that old school position they used to be in the AFC East, where one year they're good and New England's just better. It's not an indictment on them. It's like, but you're the best of the, the wild card teams. You're better than probably a couple of the division leaders. So you need to keep stacking these wins to ensure that people don't think that something sweet over here.
Yeah, Cincinnati, I'll give a puncher's chance just because Joe Burrow just seems to play well against Buffalo for whatever reason. They're 3-0 this season when he plays. They're 5-0 in December since he's been their quarterback. He's missed some games, obviously. But the key is turnovers again, because Cincinnati's defense, they either get stops or they're they either give up points or they're opportunistic and get turnovers. Unfortunately for Buffalo, their offense has been a land of opportunity for their opponents to get turnovers. But I think Buffalo wins this game for a lot of the same reasons that you said. Give me Eagles over the Chargers. I don't care if Herbert plays or not. I'm going with the Eagles, because even if he does play, they're going to send in the house after him.
Yeah,
but side note,
you gotta blitz him. Even if he give up a long pass, you gotta blitz him. You gotta knock him down and make him land on his hand and push himself up.
But side note,
multiple times.
Side note, no Jalen Carter. He's got the shoulder situations going on, both shoulders, and we might get Omarion Hampton back, but I'm still picking the Eagles. But the game that I really want to talk about, Mr. Logical, Andrew Luck. What does that mean, Mr. Logical?
Colts, Jaguars. Colts haven't won in Jacksonville since Andrew Luck.
2014. You know what I'm saying? Andrew Luck. Do you know? Here you go. I got the quiz for you. Do you know who Jacksonville's quarterback was in that game?
Blake Bortles.
It was not Blake Bortles. It was
Blake?
Chad Henne.
Yeah, I wouldn't have got that one.
Yeah, it was Chad Henne. So here we are. The Colts have lost 3 or 4. Jacksonville's in first place, even though they got the same record. Jacksonville, since their bye week, has been scoring 29 points a game. Daniel Jones' leg isn't getting any better. How do the Colts win this game?
Give it to the guy that was the leading MVP candidate for about 7 or 8 games. The guy
Shane Steichen doesn't know who that is.
The guy who ran for college football numbers against Atlanta's defense over in Germany. Just give him the ball. Give Daniel Jones 28 to 32 total passes. Give him some rollouts where he runs straight out of bounds. I know he has some 3D printed calf mold or fibula mold that his friend's company made that he's wearing underneath his sock. I'm not sure what their quarterback depth is, but I'm pretty sure that they still have the backup quarterback, right? The guy they took Indianapolis that they took.
They got Anthony Richardson. Yeah.
Yeah, they still. So it's he could get in and hand the ball off to Jonathan Taylor if necessary. Or, give him 18 passes. Don't give him 30 passes because he'll go 14 for 32. Give him 18 passes. Maybe he can go 10 for 18 if necessary, if you have to put him in.
10 for 18.
It's not like Jacksonville's a juggernaut. And Jacksonville's we've seen them consistently not. We got another turnover. JMU turned the ball over again. This time around midfield. Score still 17-14 in the third. So I'm taking the Colts. I think this is where they beat that streak. Jacksonville. I know there's been a lot of heat on Trevor Lawrence, and there's all these numbers comparing him. The numbers used to compare him to Daniel Jones when they were losing games, and he's not the guy, and they overpaid the wrong guy. Listen, you go out there, you ball. He's used to winning. He was a high school champion. He was a college champion, number 1 overall pick. Give him an opportunity to ball, he'll ball. But I just like the Colts to snap this streak, get back on track, and get back to the top of the AFC South, which has turned out to be a pretty interesting division. I think we all thought it would be like somebody's gonna win it, but it's actually turned out to be one of the more entertaining division races that we've seen throughout the years.
Well, all I gotta say is if Daniel Jones can't use his legs, that dime ain't worth 2 nickels.
And Anthony Richardson for the quarterback run plays in.
Yep, and you said 10 for 18. It's more like 5 for 18. But Jacksonville, they got the injuries, right? Both tackles. Parker Washington might not play. Trayvon Walker is not going to play. Eric Armstead is not going to play. You know what I'm saying? But the Colts are missing Sauce. The Colts are missing their third down blanket, Josh Downs. Mooney Ward can't cover both Brian Thomas and Myers. The only thing is Thomas might drop some passes anyway.
Yeah.
So
I Kobe Myers and let Brian Thomas Jr. head defend.
Yeah. So I agree with you that that the Colts are going to win. I do think though the thing to keep an eye on, Jacksonville does have the number 1 run defense in the league. So this could get hairy. And if it comes, all I'm telling you, Mr. Logical, if Cam Little has to kick a 71-yard field goal, the Colts are in trouble. Yeah, Colts are in trouble. I'm not even going to talk about this game. I'm going to let you have it. Give me the Seahawks big time over the Falcons.
Word, I'll take that. I'll take that money.
Mr. Logical.
I'm a smart dude.
Mr. Logical, do you think that looking across the field and seeing Shador Sanders is going to make Cam Ward break out of his shell and throw for 350 yards?
He sounds crazy. I think it might bring the best out of both of them.
Okay.
I'm thinking like maybe a little over 200 yards for Shador, maybe about 250 for Cam.
Well, we'll see if Shador needs water early.
Yeah, because you can't drink water in front of Cam Ward. You can't let that happen. Y'all out here drinking water already. You're supposed to come out here hydrated. It's the 5th round pick that Cleveland used to get Shador. It still does baffle me. I'm not gonna I don't think there was a conspiracy. I just don't understand it. I think he was a project. If you thought he was a project quarterback, I felt like he still probably should have went a little earlier because there was a lot of picks of guys aren't playing, like maybe a 4th round pick. It just seems odd that he fell that far, considering that his few games he's been in, he hasn't looked that much different than Dylan Gabriel, Cam Ward, Tyler Shuck, or any other rookies that came out this year. So for the people, these sources that have 5th round grades on them, it's kind of odd. I kind of hope he outplays Cam Ward. Not Cam Ward, but just the fact that we thought it was going to be Cam or Shador as the number 1 pick, and then one goes, one other goes 122 or whatever the number was. So I just want Shador to have a breakout game. The only problem is my social media is social media, and if he goes 22 for 29 for 240 yards and a couple of touchdowns, the comments are going to be like, yo, we told you he was next. He should have been a number 1 pick. I'm like, calm down. It's just,
and then if he goes 16 for 38.
What do you expect? He barely got any practice. It's like, don't make the excuse to just watch the game and enjoy it. I hope they do well. I hope they continue to get their chance. I hope he gets a chance. He probably won't get into Cleveland next year if Deshaun Watson's healthy. So I hope each one of them play well because I think we deserve to see a good football game, a good football story. I think the two of them being friends for as long as they have, working out together, putting on a good show in the 1 o'clock spot, I think it'd be a good game.
This one is my stat of the day. The Browns have 43 sacks on the season. The Titans have given up 48. It's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day.
Myles Garrett's getting 2.5.
Well, he might get all 4 that he needs to break the record in this game.
That would be crazy because, he got the game ball last time for the Cleveland record. So if he comes out, he gets the 4 sacks. And then Shador goes 22 for 29, 250, and a couple of tutties. And it's like, game ball.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett. And then they
Yeah.
were like, yo, we couldn't give the rookie his best game. Like, I love, because I get the Cleveland radio guys. Yo, they are nuts. They are fanatics. I love it. Those 60-second clips are the highlight of my morning when I check and I see the radio guys.
All right, so we got JJ McCarthy back. We got Jaden Daniels back for some strange reason. Give me Washington. That simple.
Yeah, I'll take Washington. I don't know what McCarthy's giving you this year.
Nah.
Kevin O'Connell has to be pretty pissed. It's like, I went from, won a lot of games my first few years.
14 games last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh,
and then
shoestring tackle.
And then we got a rivalry, a rivalry game. We got the Dolphins, who I mentioned earlier, just a game behind the Chiefs, playing against the Jets that have suddenly won 3 out of 5. Which team keeps it going, Mr. Logical? Because Miami's on a winning streak too.
I'm gonna say the Jets. I think the Jets with Tyrod Taylor, they just play simple football. I think he picks his spots to run it. I believe he had, he picked the spots well to run against Atlanta last week, especially in the rain. He had a rushing touchdown. I think he just plays the game at a speed that everybody can. Everybody.
I'm gonna meet you at your level. Yeah.
Everybody around him settles in. The coaching, the play calling, the urgency, it all matches. I think Justin Fields was frantic because it's like juggling grenades.
Mm-hmm. So we got 24-7 Tulane now. Jacksonville State has actually now just scored and taken the lead over Kennesaw State with about 4 minutes left. It's 13-12, waiting for the 2-point conversion. UNLV got another quick score, so 28-14 with 32 seconds left in the first half. So, Mr. Logical, I'm going with the Jets, for a lot of the same reason. But, all right, now it's time for your final pop quiz of the day, Mr. Logical.
All right.
Who are the top 3 leaders in targets this season?
Jackson, Smith, and Jigba.
No. Which actually shocked the hell out of me when I saw that.
Top 3 in targets. Drake London?
No.
No one from the Najee Flowers. Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua?
No, neither.
I'm out.
All right. So number 1 is Jamar Chase.
Fuck, I should have known that one.
Number 2 is Trey McBride. Number 3 is Chris Olave. And he's probably not going to play this weekend. So give me Tampa big. And I will admit that, Tyler Shuck has probably looked a little bit better than I imagined him looking this season. But the Saints all this season long have only scored over 21 twice or once. One of those they scored 21. The other one they scored 26 when they beat the Giants. They haven't scored 21 points since that Week 5 win over the Giants. Give me Tampa.
He does look like when I was watching the Falcons, he did look a lot more. He looked like a rookie that is practicing, like putting what he is learning into practice. You know what I mean? Like sometimes rookies can look like Shador sometimes looks like a deer in the headlights. JJ McCarthy has the same problem. Sometimes Jackson Dart's kind of like, dog, just get out of bounds. Like just little stuff like that. Tyler does look like, but like I said, he's 25, 26, play a lot of football. It's just a matter of like being able to hit the big plays. I don't think
I just wonder if Kellen Moore is handcuffing him a little bit, like he's being too conservative.
No, he threw a lot of he was throwing the ball around the way you expect a rookie to throw the ball around against Atlanta. That's the only Saints game that I've watched where he was like really, he was making throws. It's just Atlanta has a really good decent pass defense. And Atlanta had, even their backup, Kirk Cousins, is a long-time NFL starter. I think it's just a matter of, like, playmakers on defense and then a guy who could make enough plays on offense. But he looked legit. I don't think I don't know if he's your long-term answer unless you get like real weapons in there. But I don't know what the patience level is for the Saints because they're going to get a top 3 or 4 pick, even if they stumble into a couple extra wins. Right. So I don't know if they have the patience to run it back with him next year with a guy like Nussmeier and potentially Arch Manning at the top of the draft boards. But yeah.
And don't forget about that dude from Harvard. Don't forget about the dude from Harvard. He's coming, y'all. But real quick, Mr. Logical, give me Denver over the Raiders. Give me the Rams over the Cardinals. That simple.
Denver, Raiders, LA. Yeah, so there's going to be some jobs opening out of these couple of games. I think the Raiders' job has to be open.
Like Cardinals, I know maybe.
The Cardinals.
And move on from Kyler Murray.
Well, I think that might help them. Because there is, especially we talk about a guy like
so McBride, give him a lame duck year.
You'll give him the past couple of years because Kyler Murray hasn't really been available or effective when available. So it's like, 47 out of 57 for Jacoby Brissett happened under his watch. So it's like he might NFL have something. Yeah, he might have something. It just he might be able to finagle that to another year just because Kyler Murray has been such a weird personality and a weird story there. But the Raiders job definitely should be open, and like I said, potentially the Cardinals job if they're in a position where they can start over.
All right, so then you got Jacksonville State got the 2-point conversion, so 15-12 over Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State is at the Jacksonville State 45 with 3:35 left to go in regulation. So, Mr. Logical, we've been given these score updates, so you know what that means. It's conference championship weekend, finally, and we're going to take it right from the top, Mr. Logical. Let's go down to the compressor.
Georgia and Alabama.
They played once this year. Kirby Smart is 1-7. 1-7 versus Alabama. Can he get one?
If they watched the Oklahoma tape. If you watch the Oklahoma tape, that's probably like the way to neutralize Alabama. Like I said, you talked about the running game leading up to that week, and I was like, they'll figure it out. I mean, it's just there's going to be holes because they have a top tier offensive line every single year in Tuscaloosa, so they're gonna. And these guys were literally running into the backs of their guards when they were pulling. It was like, pick your head up. So if you watch the Oklahoma tape, I think they'll be able to maximize that. And I like Georgia. I just feel like Kalen DeBoer is still trying to, get his stamp on Bama.
Okay.
And not beating Oklahoma 2 years in a row, like not getting that monkey off your back. You got the Vandy monkey off, but it's like not getting that one off, being in this position where you might not make the college football playoff again when it's expanded to 12 teams. Like, you think Nick Saban's not in the 12-team playoff 2 years in a row? It's 12 teams. So I think that pressure, and they're saying it to him at the gas station. They're at Publix. They're at the gas station. They're seeing him in traffic. Like, hey, man, don't go out to Georgia and lose another one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're subtle about it. I stopped in Tuscaloosa. Everything's burgundy or crimson or whatever the color is. Like the inside of the store, the gas station, the street signs. It was no other colors.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed there one night. I'm like, I saw a Dr. Pepper ad. I'm like, okay, maybe that's why the store is mostly burgundy. Nope. Everything was burgundy. The aisle paintings, everything was burgundy. So, or like crimson red, excuse me. So I know they're giving them the attention. I just think that Georgia pulls it out, and the committee is gonna have to make a decision. Are you going to, for lack of a better word, punish Alabama for playing an additional, 13th game against an opponent they already played early this year, or you just simply going to just use it as a way to seed them differently. So if Georgia wins, they probably go up to 2 because Ohio State or Indiana, one of them has to lose, obviously. So Georgia probably goes up to 2, and Bama probably goes to 10. But I think they still keep them in. And I think it just keeps a team like, I think it just keeps a team like Texas out, because you can say, oh, well, Alabama played a conference championship against, a top tier
if Alabama
SEC
loses
school.
this game, they are Texas. I'll get back to that in a second. So, the first time they played, Georgia outrushed Alabama 227 to 117. Bama's best running back, Jam Miller, may not be available for this game. And that's already, drama for a team that we just mentioned can't really run the ball that well to begin with. In that game, Alabama won 24 to 21. They scored all 24 in the first half. They didn't score again after halftime. Georgia had a chance late. They were going to, probably get a stop until homeboy decided to jump over the pile and get the dumb penalty. And then that kind of was the end of the chapter for the Bulldogs. Georgia did not get a sack against Alabama last time they played.
Yeah.
But they have turned that up the last couple of games. Mr. Logical, this is all I'm going to say about the SEC before I go any further. I don't want to hear nothing else about the SEC, because at the end of this game tomorrow, either Alabama or Georgia combined will have won 11 out of the last 12 SEC titles. The only other team that has a SEC title in that window is Joe Burrow in the LSU Tigers back in 2019. Everything else for the last 12 years has been Georgia or Bama. In addition to Kirby Smart being 1-7 against Bama, Mr. Logical. Bama is 4-0 against Georgia in SEC title games. You know what I'm saying? We've seen some crazy stuff too. We saw Justin Fields with the dumb punt call, fake punt call, dumbest fake punt call I've ever seen in my life. Tua got hurt. Jalen Hurts had to come in and save the day. We saw Matthew Stafford with a chance to win at the very, very end, and the pass just fell 4 yards short of the end zone. We had the national title game, Tua to Devontae Smith. So, Alabama just has some crazy juju on Georgia. The good thing about juju is if you have talent, eventually it reverses. Give me the Bulldogs. I picked Bama the first time they played. Give me the Bulldogs this time. And if it were up to me, if it was up to 2-5, Alabama would not be in if they lose this game. Now,
why?
I get the argument. I'm going to tell you, I get the argument.
Yeah.
Of, hey, don't punish them. They made the conference championship game. Other teams in their conference didn't make it, so why punish them? I get that argument, and I ain't even going to say it's invalid. But my thought is, what's the difference between Alabama and Texas at that point? Because Texas, their whole big argument is, well, if we didn't play Ohio State, we would be 10-2 and we would be in the playoff. Cool, but you lost to 4-8 Florida. You know what I'm saying? Alabama, if they lose this game, okay, you lost to Oklahoma. Oklahoma's in the playoff. No fault. You lose to Georgia. No fault. They're in the playoff, and you beat them this year. But you lost to the Florida State team that lost to that 4-8 Florida team. Because the whole season has to matter. I know that was week 1. But don't tell me that we're evaluating these teams from beginning to end.
They're not.
And they're not.
They're evaluating the bottom line of who's going to put 80,000 asses in seats at this NFL stadium.
Well, the good news is
who's going to book out all these hotels? Who is going to drive people to watch these games? The crazy thing is this. The argument will be, because I guess technically if Bama loses, this loss won't count as a conference loss.
Right.
So they finish their season 7-1. So Bama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas A&M are all 7-1 in the SEC.
Right.
Oklahoma's going to be in.
Right.
But they're 6-2 in the SEC.
So the
committee is going to say, we can't put Oklahoma in, who had 2 SEC losses out of 8 games, and Alabama didn't get their second SEC loss until the SEC championship.
And I would tell the committee, I don't care.
I'm taking public relations classes right now. I'm already giving a college football committee their script for each scenario. It doesn't have to line up. We talk about like the NFL draft. Some guy can have off the field problems, but on the field he runs a 4.45. Some other guy can have off the field problems, but he runs a 4.78. That guy's a 4th round draft pick, and he's going to be a gem if he gets in the right hands and the right organization and the right structure. This other guy's a can't miss 1st round talent. It's just you don't have to apply the same logic. I personally would, as my moniker states, Mr. Logical, but I know that it will not be applied. It'll be applied individually in 12 separate columns for each team, with the additional 3 or 4 columns for the teams that don't make it. They will have their statement built of to why. You're going to be like, what about Oklahoma? Oklahoma lost twice and they beat Alabama once. So how come? Well, Miami beat. Oh, it's not gonna run together. It's going to be 12 separate columns for the teams that make it, and 3 separate columns for the 3 teams that people feel should be in, with the statement that says why they aren't in.
All right. So speaking of Miami, down in Miami Gardens, their eyes are going to be all up on Charlotte, because the Duke Blue Devils could potentially hold Miami's playoff fate in their hands. If you're a guy like me that believes in head-to-head, you would think that Miami gets ahead of Notre Dame. But the last time we saw the rankings, Notre Dame was ahead of Miami. But Notre Dame still wouldn't be in the field if the playoffs started right now. So if you're Miami, you're going Duke, 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 because if Virginia wins, they're in. They're the ACC champion. They would be 11-2. There's no reason to keep Virginia out.
They're currently ranked at 17, so that eliminates this JMU, Troy, Tulane scenario that we're currently dealing with in the 4th quarter. 9:40 left, up 3 still.
So the bad news is Virginia just beat Duke by 17 2-3 weeks ago. You had Manny Diaz. I was talking about how the ACC doesn't campaign. Mario Cristobal's been on the trail. Manny Diaz has been out here not only advocating for Duke if they win, but he's advocating for Miami too. So, I guess the ACC saw my TikTok. You're welcome. So with that being said,
I don't know why the committee doesn't have Miami above Notre Dame.
Because they're going off of, that's what I'm saying. They don't reevaluate. They're going off of, you had this spot in the middle of the season where you lost 2 out of 3. Notre Dame has won 10 in a row. That's it. You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, Mr. Logical, you know what's interesting? We're watching North Texas and Tulane right now. Virginia's quarterback was the starting quarterback for North Texas last year. Duke's quarterback was the starting quarterback for Tulane last year.
So maybe that NIL money is properly invested. I think so. I think the NIL money needs to go to the right spots. So I think some teams are trying to buy up everybody.
Right.
It's like, no, just give
me the quarterback.
Recruit your players, and then get the right quarterback, and then maybe get the right dynamic skill position guy. But everybody else you can recruit.
But when they played a couple of weeks ago, like I mentioned, Virginia outrushed Duke 224-42. That ain't gonna get it done, Blue Devils. Virginia's the better team, flat out. And at this point, I'm hoping for chaos. So I'm gonna have my fingers crossed, and I'm gonna hope that Duke pulls this out. But I can't in good faith pick Duke to win this game, like realistically.
Yeah, it's a stretch. But like you said, they just played a few weeks ago. Maybe we're familiar with this. This guy doesn't really run that hard, or this guy doesn't pay. Whatever it is that takes you got to get to the point where you're going to pull this upset. Or maybe just the idea of being spoiler. is enough.
And I mean, Manny Diaz is a defensive coach. So, you giving him a second opportunity now. And that's the problem with Duke. The only reason they got into
I seen your favorite 12 plays.
And that's the problem with with these championship games and these tiebreakers, because Duke is only in the ACC championship game because they lost to the right people. They lost to Virginia and they lost to Georgia Tech. So they lost to the right people, whereas, Miami lost to SMU and Louisville. So that's, a little worse, winning percentages and all that kind of stuff like that. So, but yeah, give me Virginia. I think it'll be closer than last time, but I'm going to take the Cavs, the Wahoos.
The Wahoos. I mean, I kind of want the chaos just because
I want it bad. I want it so bad.
I want it, so I'm going to pick Duke. I'm gonna pick Duke just because I want chaos. That's it. I'm gonna root for Duke for the chaos, just because I want to see and I want to hear from a public relations standpoint, so I can talk about it in my class next week. I need like a new subject anyway. I want something surprising.
Well, it was 1:02 left, 4th and 14. Kennesaw State driving down 3. They snap it to the quarterback, and he literally runs up the left sideline and gets the first down. But wait, there's a flag. So we'll see what this call is. But yeah, I want the chaos. I think we deserve the chaos, because every year we come into even when it was the 14 playoff, besides the Florida State year, we had these years where it was like, what if this happens? What if that happens? And then it never happens.
It ever happens.
Yeah, so give me the chaos.
This year the chaos, and that gets you. So you're gonna end up with a potentially JMU they're in, and the winner of Tulane North Texas is in.
Yeah, but I think it's the other way around as far as priority. I think Tulane,
but Notre Dame. So that might put Notre Dame out.
Well, Notre Dame's not in right now, but yeah, that would keep Notre Dame out.
That would keep Notre Dame out.
Right. And well, hold on, wait. Stay there for a second.
If Bama loses, that definitely keeps Miami, Texas, and Notre Dame out. But you get North
and
Texas
Vanderbilt,
and JMU in, and I'm for it. I'm for it.
All right, now hold up. Stay there for a quick second.
For a 2014 playoff next year, that won't happen.
Stay there for a quick second, because the next question is: can Texas Tech lose to BYU and still be safe in the playoff?
If the score ends up being 31-28 on the last second field goal by BYU.
Yeah, because remember now. Because
that's what the SMU Clemson situation was we thought it was going to be one way. They battled back in the second half. We figured they deserved a shot in the college football playoff.
But this is the thing, right? So Texas Tech beat BYU 29-7 a couple of weeks ago in Lubbock. This game is in Jerry World. Texas Tech this season has only given up 20 once. And that was the game that they lost to Arizona State, which the caveat is we lost that game without our starting quarterback. So if they lose this game to BYU, a lot of people are going to view this through the lens of this is their first true loss, because I can blame the first one on not having their quarterback. So that's why I asked the question, because if they lose this game, they'll be 11-2 with a loss without their quarterback. And the other loss is in that conference championship game. Do I punish them?
Extra game. Do I punish you for playing an extra game?
Because whereas BYU's out.
You're going to have a 10-2 Oklahoma in there who didn't play for their conference championship, who's actually 6th in their conference and with that. And the same thing with Miami. Miami's nowhere near playing for their conference, but they're 2 losses. But Oklahoma's in and Miami isn't. That is the chaos that I'm looking for. I want to hear all the calculated, crafted, teleprompter level statements from whomever they send up there to take these grenades from the sports media world.
And BYU is out with a loss. I don't care if they lose by 1. I don't care if they lose by a half a point. 2. I think they're out. You know what I'm saying? Just because of what you're talking about. If I can get rid of BYU, I'm getting rid of them. You know what I'm saying? They're not Notre Dame. They're not Miami.
That allows you to keep Notre Dame or Miami.
Right.
'Cause
Oh,
I
touchdown
imagine
Kennesaw
that
State.
I imagine that the TV folks, because like I said, the video I sent you guys today, the guy was like, "Listen, I'm not calling for this, but I can." He's like, "If I'm watching that game, he was like, I bet you if the ACC could, or something, I'm paraphrasing, they would do everything they could in their
To get
power
Miami in the championship game.
to get Virginia to win,
Oh, okay.
like
Okay.
to Virginia to win the ACC championship game, because without that, there's literally, short of them just flipping Notre Dame and Miami, which is based
Justified.
off of, is justifiable,
Mm-hmm.
because you could say the other 11 games are 0-0.
Right.
Like there was no advantage either way when we looked at the 11 games as they played out. So we have to go to the head-to-head. We looked at the head-to-head again, and we realized that Miami deserved the shot over Notre Dame. It probably won't happen because you have Notre Dame can fill any stadium in America. I'm pretty sure Miami could too, but I think Notre Dame's fan base is probably more vapid and more widespread.
Yeah.
Short of just the Catholicism, just the fact that people are legit just Notre Dame fans, regardless of like religious ideologies that they follow. But yeah,
So
it's
got,
tough. It's tough. Like I said, they're all praying that Duke gets the stomach flu or something, and they play poorly tomorrow. Meanwhile, I'm hoping they get great sleep. I hope they all get hyperbaric chambers in their room and they just sleep peacefully, and they come out and they just create 300 Leonidas level chaos.
Right.
And
So we got 19-15 Kennesaw State with 51 seconds left. Jacksonville State taking over on their own 25. Yeah, so I'm taking Texas Tech in this game, though. I think BYU just doesn't match up well with them. Texas Tech, money well spent. They got a Heisman candidate on defense named Jacob Rodriguez, who had 14 tackles last time they played BYU. LJ Martin, BYU star running back, was a little banged up last time. So I think this game will be closer. I just don't think BYU can get over the top. So, I'm going to take Tech by 10, which sounds crazy, but I mean, they won by 22 last time.
Yeah.
So,
I like Texas Tech. That's where I was born, in that general area.
Yeah.
That good old Texas there. But yeah, I mean, just it's if Miami and Notre Dame were in place to be in the college football playoff, I think BYU would be safe at 11-2 with their second loss. With their two losses coming to the team that won their conference.
Well, that's the other question. I guess now that you say that, I got a new question. So Texas Tech right now is 5, I believe, in the rankings. So if they win this game, you know what I mean, they'll probably get a bye because, like you said, if Texas Tech wins, I think they get a bye. Oh, they're 4.
They're 4 right now. Oregon's 5.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because A&M lost. That's right.
A&M lost. So Texas Tech at 4, BYU at.
So now
that's the thing. The BYU at 11 sets it up for BYU to fall out. BYU beats Texas Tech. I don't know how they fall out.
But see,
if Texas Tech lose and Bama loses, I got to keep Texas Tech.
But here's the question though. Should we think BYU will be out? Should BYU be out? If not only, hold on, wait. Let me ask the question. They only got the 2 losses. One of the losses was in the extra game, and they're to a team that's going to get a bye. That
they played in the championship game. So it's like maybe they'll look at it like, hey, maybe they can't compete with the championship college football, the CFP level teams. I doubt that. I doubt they'll be able to spin it that way. But a Bama loss and a BYU loss is just BYU beats Texas Tech, I think, and Bama loses. I think Bama's out. Texas Tech and BYU both get it.
Okay. All right. Now stay there because I got an idea that I'm going to ask you about once we finish the next game. All right. So the Big Ten title game, Lucas Oil Field up in Indianapolis, Indiana. So the Ohio State Buckeyes are coming in. Mr. Logical, I'm just going to ask you point blank. Is there any chance on God's green earth that the Hoosiers knock off the Buckeyes?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to say yes. I like the completion percentage from Julian saying, but it's only like 3,000 yards, like 3,059. So it's not a lot of consistent deep throws. So if you play smart defense over the top and you don't let Tate and Jeremiah Smith just catch those deep 25, 30-yard big plays, I think you can keep it intact. I think Cignetti, like he said, he's a winner. I don't think people are giving him a lot of chances as JMU just scampers in for a touchdown.
And Kennesaw State gets the stop, so they're going to be the CUSA champions in their second year in the conference.
I like Indiana's chances just because I think they have a Heisman candidate at quarterback and they have a coach of the year at coach, and I think his confidence kind of permeates to the rest of the team. So I think there's a shot. And like I said, Ohio State hasn't been challenged all year. They're locked in to their spot. I don't know if the motivation is to go undefeated, if that's the motivation, because even if they lose,
they're in.
They're still in,
and they still might get a bye still,
and they'll still get a home game. Like at this point, they'll lose and get a home game, and it'll be just like last year where they lost to Michigan, and then they ran the table in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I give them a shot. I give Indiana a shot.
Okay, so this is one of those talking point conversations because Indiana's name is Indiana, and I think a lot of people are counting Indiana out just because their name is Indiana. And
Correct.
So I keep hearing these things like, who did Indiana play this year? What defenses did they go up against? They played Purdue, they played Illinois, they didn't play Michigan, they didn't play whoever, they played Iowa. It didn't look so good. They played Oregon, got slowed down some, they didn't play Washington, so on and so forth. But then when I flip it over, because you got to look at both sides of the argument, right? So when I flip it over, I'm looking at Ohio State. I'm like, okay, they played Minnesota. Okay. I'm looking for the offenses here that were supposed to threaten them. And they played Rutgers, which has a good offense, but the talent level, so Texas, the same Notre Dame argument, right? It was week 1, early in the season, don't got the offense figured out yet. I'm looking, and I'm like, oh, they played Purdue, So I don't know who was supposed to challenge Ohio State is what I'm getting at here.
Yes.
So neither team has been challenged. So this is going to be an interesting game just to see who blinks first. Now, last year they played in Columbus. It was a 14-7 game. Indiana was hanging tough, and then they had a special teams blunder that gave Ohio State a touchdown right before halftime. And then Ohio State ends up winning that game 38-15. But guess what Indiana didn't have in that game last year? They didn't have Fernando Mendoza. They had Curtis Rourke.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They didn't have Roman Hemby from Maryland, the running back, transferred in. You know what I mean? They still got Surratt. You saw the catch that Cooper made against Penn State. And then
shout out to the referee still.
Yeah. And they got my guy Pons in the secondary. So Indiana can beat Ohio State. They won't. I think it's going to be a close game. I could see Indiana finally being the team to put 20 on Ohio State because right now Illinois is the leader with 16. So so I got Ohio State winning this game 27-20. And I think that people go into the playoffs saying maybe Ohio State isn't as good as we thought they were. And it's like, no, they are. Indiana's just good too.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out on the limb and say Indiana wins.
I hope you're right.
I think, like you said, we talk about, and I believe this conversation doesn't occur in that vein until it's either a team that has like a bad loss, we like to say a bad loss,
right,
or a team that's undefeated that we as sports media and fans don't want to believe their record. They always get dissected to, well, you didn't play this team, you didn't play this team didn't have this, you need a last second field. And it's like it's broken down to, it's very finite, bits of sand on why you're still undefeated versus a team like Ohio State, where you expect to be undefeated. You expect a team that's landing 5-star at the 5-star at the 5-star every single offseason to be undefeated. So no one looks at the fact that Minnesota was trying to single cover Tate one-on-one with no safety help. It was like, that's not a good look. That's not a smart defensive strategy. And like, Jeremiah Smith not getting double teamed all game long. Even when he was out there hobbled, I'm still doubling him. I'm gonna make him work harder on that bad leg to the point where like he ended up leaving the game, but they had the game. I think that was a UCLA game. They had the game in control.
Yeah. So, all right, Mr. Logical, real quick before we get out of here, we'll go around the nation for some quick news and notes real quick. So here's my idea that I was thinking about. So I saw Vanderbilt trying to schedule Miami or Utah for this weekend.
Yeah.
All right. This is the problem because, there's dumb NCAA rules. The problems were they were talking about the logistics. It was too short notice. So a lot of people out there were saying, well, hey, during COVID, we saw BYU and Coastal Carolina schedule each other in a few days. This is the problem. Since these teams have already played 12 games, the only way they would be able to play another game, since they didn't make their conference championship games, is if it was in Hawaii, Alaska, or Puerto Rico. So that's why the game couldn't happen.
That'd be overseas.
Right. So that's why the game couldn't happen. But Vanderbilt tried. So it gave me an idea. And, like we talk about the NCAA tournament, 68 teams. Then you got the first 4 to get it down to 64 so we can go into the tournament.
I hate that game. Those games.
I hate those games too. But I like the idea of the games. I hate that they take teams that have already won their conferences in some of those games and make them play to get it in. Right. They earned their spot. You know what I'm saying? Like make it all bubble teams. But here's the idea, right? So like just playing this out this year, we could have had 2 rematches or we could have had 2 nice matchups, right? You could have had a Notre Dame Miami rematch.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And you could have had Vanderbilt or Texas against Utah. You know what I mean? And those could have been, as in the military, right? You know what I'm saying? You got your space A, you know what I'm saying? You got your standby. You know what I'm saying? So now we don't have to have these arguments. You got these teams playing each other. The winners are on standby in case something happens on Championship Saturday. What you think of that idea?
I honestly don't like the extra game. You had 12.
Okay.
You had your 12 games. And your success after your 12th game and pretty much throughout the season is strictly based on early season placement of arbitrarily putting people from 1 through 25 or not in that 1 through 25. And like everyone, because I don't know what the numbers are after 25. So you're 1 through 25. Those are your ranked teams.
I mean, they still got 26, 27, 20.
But like, I don't know where they print that at. I don't know where they post that.
So at the bottom of the poll,
how they go. I don't know how they go from like, because you could be 50 in that. Like Vanderbilt probably is never maybe 30, 35 in that.
So at the bottom of the poll, not in the CFP, but in the AP and the coaches poll, they have the others receiving votes. So that list is in order of the first name is 26, and then you just go,
Yeah. So that's all completely essentially not random but arbitrary.
Right,
And then
right, right,
you
right,
play
right.
your season out, and if you start at 26 and you're in the SEC and you can't get above Ole Miss, A&M, Texas, Georgia, Bama, then you're just sitting at 11 or 12 or 14 like Vandy is. It's like you can't get up to the top. So playing another game for a group of people who just arbitrarily put you at 15, I don't think proves to them that you deserve to be at 11 or 12 because it's like, yeah, we had you at 15. Like
Yeah.
that game is dope, but you played another team that's
But see, and
you're
that's
at 50,
probably
you're
why,
at 12. You played a team at 15. You think we're supposed to move you to the top 10? That doesn't
and
make
and,
any
and that's
sense.
probably why they keep talking about expanding to 16. Because just using this year as an example, you could be missing out on Notre Dame, Miami, and Texas in this playoff.
Yeah, but those teams lost 7 games between the
I
three of
know,
them.
I know.
But that but
Six, but I mean,
college,
yeah, 7. Yeah, so
yeah,
yeah,
7.
you're no, you're no,
Yeah.
you're
So
right. But
like that, but that's it. We can look at the NFL format and what works and what doesn't, and it's just a matter of like where you are. If you did you win this raffle at this place? Cool. Then you get to go to this other place and join the raffle. It doesn't matter that only 50 people put their name into this one and 500 went in this one. If you won, you move on. You won, you move on. That's how the NFL does it. They have set standards and they go with that. There's very little opinion based into that.
right,
The NCAA offers opinions and they offer standards that vehemently. If you are a team that's not in the SEC, you have a 1 loss buffer and 2 loss, you're begging. If you're in the SEC, you got 1 loss, you're still good. At 2 losses, you're in the mix, and at 3, you're begging. That's just the way it goes.
yeah,
That's how it's gone every single year that people have been allowed to vote teams in. SEC, you get an extra buffer game because of the strength of your conference. Everybody else, you got 1 loss. We'll rationalize 1 loss. Boise State, you had the 1 loss to Oregon. You're good to go. But if they would have slipped up against a Kansas State or Fresno State or something like that, they wouldn't have been in.
JMU scores again.
Yeah, they
Tulane
got a
is in
strip
the red.
sack.
Yeah, Tulane's in the red zone. So Mr. Logical, my misery may not be over yet.
Let's hear it.
So Chris Kleiman at Kansas State has decided to retire.
Oh,
It
that
looks,
gives Florida State an opportunity to get a bowl game.
yeah, it looks like Colin Klein, former Kansas State quarterback, current Texas A&M offensive coordinator, is going to take over for Chris Kleiman in the Little Apple. With that being said, the next teams, because you got to pick the 5 and 7 teams now, because all the 6 and 6 teams made bowl games. So the 3 teams in the mix for this bowl game are Rice, Auburn, and Florida State. So we'll see how that goes and which one of the teams gets the bowl game if Kansas State decides not to go. But rumors are that they're going to turn down that invite. So we'll see.
So who's gonna lose the most in transfers? Like, who do you think is gonna Florida State gonna lose the most guys in transfers?
Yes,
Auburn,
I think Florida State.
Florida State will.
Yeah, I mean, they already fired Patrick Surtain's daddy today, too. He's probably the best recruiter on the roster. So, there you go. In other head coaching news, Penn State, the wait is over. We were just talking about what's going on at Penn State. They got their guy, Matt Campbell from Iowa State.
Was that 55 days? Because what was the countdown that Jay Paterno said the other day? He was like, we're at day 51.
Yeah.
So that was
53,
Monday.
54 days.
Tuesday. Yeah.
54 days, yeah. So great hire for Penn State, in my opinion. He's only 70 and 55 at Iowa State. But again, I said it's Iowa State, a school that has never won a conference title before. And, speaking of which, Mr. Logical, I forgot to mention, Virginia, UVA, has never. And The Rock means never. won the ACC on their own without sharing. And they've only done that twice. So this is their chance to win their first ever straight up ACC title.
Cool. Before Miami.
That's nuts. Before
I'm
Miami.
still picking Duke.
And then, not to be outdone, Iowa State says, fine. You took our head coach. We're going to take Washington State's head coach. So, so Jimmy Rogers is coming in from Washington State. So the cool thing about that, Mr. Logical, is that Jimmy Rogers that I'm talking about, came into Washington State this year from the Jackrabbits. So he's a winner. He played for the Jackrabbits. He coached the Jackrabbits. So maybe Iowa State's fall off, losing Matt Campbell won't be as bad as people think.
I mean, he's probably going to be really good at recruiting in that region.
Yep. And then finally, Brian Hartline, of course, the guy that brings all these Jeremiah Smiths and Carnell Tates and Ibukas to Ohio State. He took over as offensive coordinator this year. He is the new head coach of the University of South Florida. So that, if you're tracking, that is A&M and Ohio State's offensive coordinator, saying as a new head coach after the season. That gives you Oregon's offensive coordinator as Kentucky's new head coach, and their defensive coordinator is probably going to be Cal's new head coach.
Yep.
We already talked about Ole Miss, in the playoff, but lost their head coach. We need some tampering rules or something.
They just.
And Jay brought that up too.
Yeah, if they move, like I said, everyone plays their first game before Labor Day weekend, and then you play it all the way out. You don't have 2 buys.
Right.
Maybe you get rid of a cupcake game. That way, like, people actually have a couple of losses at the end of the year, so you can really divide up who belongs where. And then you play the conference championship games last week, and then you start the playoffs this weekend.
Right.
The season, you play your national championship game New Year's Eve or New Year's Day or maybe January 2nd. And then people can start talking to coaches January 3rd legally. And then you can do all your hires in. That's how the NFL does it. The NFL doesn't have that calendar because of tampering, because people are still tampering. You play golf with opposing coaches and owners and teammates and general managers. You went to college with them. Some guys you might have coached them. Like Mike Tomlin probably has guys who played on his team who are coaches on other teams that they probably still hang out, So like the conversations are happening. It's just that the NFL is like, all right, cool. The Super Bowl is over. Now you're going to talk about us in these contracts. You're going to talk about what coaches are moving. You're going to talk about who's getting hired. Talk about who's getting fired. Talk about who's selling the team. You're going to talk about who's buying the team. Now you talk about who's getting drafted on the team. And every single week, we're going to be the highlight of your sports day. And then we're going to throw you a bunch of guys in tights doing sprints and stretches. And you're going to talk about who's getting drafted next year. And we're going to stay relevant all year long. College football can do the same thing. Just follow that same calendar.
Oh, and last thing, did you see, since you're watching the Dukes right now, did you see who it looks like James Madison has tabbed as their new head coach?
They got a guy from a smaller school, I believe. Who they get?
Billy Napier.
Oh, that's what it was.
Sunbelt Billy is back. It's
maybe
crazy.
Some of those recruits want to go to James Madison.
Allegedly.
Virginia.
Yeah, allegedly, Tulane is talking to Ed Orgeron. They might be talking to LSU's current defensive coordinator, Blake Baker. So, carousel's not quite done yet, but, we might be getting towards the end now. So, But ladies and gentlemen, he is the one and only world famous, world renowned, cool, calm, and collected. Born in Texas, raised in VA.
You're
representing everything New Jerusalem. He wants you to know that Rutgers would absolutely be in the ACC championship game.
They're closer to that than the Big Ten stuff.
He is Mr. Logical. And all he asks of you is don't bring feelings to a fact fight.
Don't do it.
And then, of course, I am your unorthodox statistician going left so much you thought I was southpaw. Pitbull Cruz fighting down here in San Antonio tomorrow. Check it out. You know what I'm saying? And then, of course, I do believe in Joe Hendry. And all I ask of you is that you like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things, do all the good things. Liquid Death in hand. Join us on Tuesday, as we react to all this. Remember, Sunday at noon Eastern, we get the final CFP rankings. So make sure y'all are watching that.
12:01, the BS starts.
Yes, we'll be breaking it all down, looking at matchups, giving initial thoughts, not making picks, but just initial thoughts. You know what I'm saying? And if nothing else, remember, we love y'all so much. Thanks for joining us. Hit those subscribe buttons, hit those notification bells so you know when we're going live. And we'll see, maybe we'll have some more guests here in the future.
Never know. Surprise, surprise.
Sports Reports is ordered. Out.
Hey! Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.
Hey! Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah.